The boy pulled back his bow and let fly his arrow into the black cloud of crows that stretched from horizon to horizon, blotting out the sun. He knew he must hit one, but no, a little gap appeared between the birds and his arrow shot straight through. Well, that's fine, I'll catch one on the way back down, he thought. But again, a gap appeared and his arrow plummeted to the ground. That would have been in 1950. I was told this tale by an old man who had been that boy. Roll forward another 30 years, and I was doing my doctoral thesis in the social behaviour of wild rabbits. It was a study animal that I chose because they were so plentiful, so very easy to watch. But that is not true now. They are now on the red list for endangered species. Well, why does that even matter? What has nature ever done for us? Well, of course, we need the pollinators. I think everybody accepts we need insects. Without the pollinators, we would have no fruit. We would have fewer of the vegetables. All that we could rely on to eat would be grains, wind-pollinated grains. All that we could rely on to eat would be bread. But also, of course, nature is vital for climate control. At the micro level with shade from trees, but also at the macro level. It is only the green plants that pull in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis, incorporate the carbon into the structures of which they are built, and ultimately die down and lay down the carbon in the soil. The carbon gets sequestered in the soil. The soil becomes that carbon. And later on, many years later on, that becomes oil and gas and coal. So we desperately need nature. Now, let's just roll on 30 years more, and I became an energy efficiency advisor. I would go to people's homes, measure the volume of the home, look at the insulation, look at the heating system, look at what renewables they have got up, and work out a bespoke method different for every single household as to how they could reduce their reliance on fossil fuels and increase their energy efficiency. But meanwhile, particularly over the last 10 years, there has been a terrific drive to build new homes. And each of those homes is built to non-zero carbon standards. This made a whole mockery of the work I was doing. Why was I trying to retrofit existing homes when homes were being built that over the course of their lives, every year, would be oozing out 5 tons of carbon dioxide, and in their very construction would cause the release of 50 to 100 tons of carbon dioxide, including the carbon that was sequestered in the soil and is now off-gassed and released back up into the atmosphere. But these are much needed homes. Or are they? Of the 300,000 homes that we are targeting to build each year in this country, our population will only grow at such a rate that 150,000 could be filled. That's half of the number. So for every two homes that we are building, only one could actually be filled. In South Oxfordshire, there is a plan to build 31,000 homes. This is between the period from 2011 to 2035. In fact, 2011 was a while ago now, so 7,000 of the homes have already been built. If you look at the Office for National Statistics data on the projected population of South Oxfordshire, then we would only have enough people to fill 8,000 homes in total. So we only need to build 1,000 more. but we're building 31,000 houses. 31,000. That means that 23,000 homes must necessarily remain empty because we simply don't have the population to fill them. Of course, it may not be the new estate homes. It's just as likely to be the chocolate box Chiltern villages, or perhaps the fine town mansions in Wallingford and Henley. But then surely we wouldn't build these homes if nobody was going to live in them. But that isn't actually so, because the homes are being built for an almost infinite international market. My son was living in a vermin-infested, damp basement flat as a man on a professional wage with 2 friends. And just up the road in Battersea, the Battersea Power Station complex was being built. Luxury homes, starting at 1.3 million for a studio flat. In a parallel universe, where Jem might have been able to afford such a studio flat, he still would not have had access to it. Because even before they were built, the first 1,500 of these flats were sold overnight to Singapore for the Asian market. They were not even advertised in this country. Homes that are being built are creating empty dwellings in this country, and they may act as 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th money boxes for the international wealthy, and function also as bolt holes in London or Bristol or Norfolk. But why does this matter? We have loads of space. The countryside is empty. Of course, it shouldn't be empty. It should be full of the rustling of small mammals, of insects hopping about on the ground, the sky blackening over with crows. But it will remain empty, or it will become even more empty, if we allow the land use changes that are being proposed to continue. Every time you build an estate or build a road, you immediately interrupt a swathe of land where nature could flow to and fro. And it needs to do that. As soon as you bisect a piece of land, the animals and plants are now in half the space that they were before. They start to inbreed, they are no longer resilient to diseases, and they die out locally in those tiny islands, those tiny fragments that you have left for them. So we need to restore our land. We need to go back to the 1950s to get our nature back again. And we must not waste our land on homes that are not needed. But there is a genuine housing crisis. It's not a crisis of supply, it's a crisis of affordability. We can get over that kind of problem in the way that New Zealand has done. They have said that if you were to buy a home in New Zealand, you can do so only if you are a New Zealand resident. That has stabilised the prices in Auckland and elsewhere in New Zealand. Similarly in St Ives, all new homes have to be built and sold for residential purposes only. That is the sort of extension in this crisis that we should be making of the way that our housing market performs. All homes, new and old, if they come on sale, it should be ensured that they are sold for residential purposes only. These are the sorts of actions that we should be taking. We should be working to restore nature to the state that it was in 1950. And we should be working to fix our broken housing market, not through supply side, but through ensuring that the right homes go to the right people. Thank you so much for listening.